Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and like I promised, even though it's 2 days late, I'm going to break down the day 10 practice that was at FedEx Field on Saturday that a lot of fans were able to go to. I wasn't able to go, but we're going to analyze every position group, most notably quarterback, especially with Carson Wentz having crazy ups and crazy downs. But at least he finished strong. But you already know how Rico at Street Scores does it. We're going to go position group by position group, starting with offense, starting with the quarterback, then running backs, and going all the way through to the defense and special teams. Of course, I'm going to also update y'all on injuries. And since this video is coming out later, again, I was just super busy yesterday, couldn't even do my live stream, which I've rescheduled to Tuesday at 6 p.m. instead of Sunday, and we're going to do it every Sunday from after that. But since this video is coming out 2 days late, this is going to be the part 1 of a 2-part breakdown of the last 2 practices, both days 10 and 11, separated by Saturday and Monday. Again, this is part 1, so this is the one about the practice that went down at FedEx Field. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, again, make sure y'all pull up to the Tuesday stream at 6 p.m. It's going to be the call-in show. Normally it's Sunday, and from now on it will be every Sunday, but this past Sunday I was just busy all day. I mean, the video I put out at 7 a.m. this morning, I was recording at 1 a.m. And then of course, make sure you always pull up to the Friday stream, 7 to 9 p.m. every Friday, where we talk about literally everything, all sports, music, anything going on, and we're mostly there for laughs and jokes. It's basically the closest thing I have is Street Scores to a podcast. And without further ado, let's get it. Alright, so first of all, when the players were coming out, Michael Phillips said that in order of applause rankings, you had Chase Young with the loudest one, Terry McLaurin with the second loudest, Tressway and Cameron Cheeseman were third, and Taylor Heinicke was fourth. And I'm still really happy that Taylor Heinicke gets that much love. I'm really happy about that. And then at some point, Jack Del Rio came out and received a whole lot of boos, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. Might have been right with y'all if I was there, I ain't gonna lie. Also, before we get to the injuries and who wasn't able to participate, we also had a couple of coaches that weren't there. Defensive line coach Sam Mills III and O-lines coach John Moscow were both in Canton for the Pro Football Hall of Fame enshrinement of Sam Mills and Dick Vermeil. So that's really cool. That's a really good excused absence for sure. And now on to the injuries. And it's a long list of guys that did not practice or participate in any way at the FedEx Field practice. You have cornerback William Jackson. He had a wrap on his hamstring. You had wide receiver De'Ami Brown. 3 tight ends and John Bates, Logan Thomas, of course, with the pup, and Cole Turner with his hamstring injury. Then you had, of course, defensive end Chase Young with him being on pup, defensive end James Smith-Williams, and also Shaka Toney. Then guard-wise, you had Trey Turner. Offensive line-wise, Sadiq Charles, because, I mean, guard, tackle, whatever. And then Cornelius Lucas was the tackle. You also had backup center Tyler Larson, and then defensive back Troy Apke, and another center, Nolan Laufenberg. And James Smith-Williams is still out with a hip injury. Just an update for those of y'all that may not know why he's been out. I'm not sure if I've talked about that in the video just yet, so I wanted to make sure I added that in there. But interestingly enough, we had Curtis Samuel in pads and going through individual drills, and then as many of y'all know, he ended up actually playing. And I think it's funny too, because you notice how we didn't have any side field because we were in the stadium instead of the practice fields. We didn't have an extra field for him to go to not participate. So it's like where the Washington Commanders playing chess, not checkers, and forced Curtis Samuel to actually participate in drills today because there was no side field for him to chill on. It's funny, but you know, thinking ahead, Ron Rivera, I see you. Also, like I've already talked about, Trey Walker unretired and he was able to participate. Remember, he's the linebacker that retired Friday and then he unretired Saturday before the practice. Then going on to quarterback, and Carson Wentz had an extremely up and down day. But one of the notable highlights was the fact that he found Curtis Samuel in the corner of the end zone for a touchdown. Benjamin St. Juste had great coverage, but it was a great touch pass to Curtis Samuel in the corner. One of them throws where it's like only Curtis Samuel could come down with it, if anybody, and he came down with it. And of course, we're going to talk about Curtis Samuel when we get to the receiver part and how he was able to just participate and take on contact and look just fine. But sticking with Carson Wentz, he seemed on point with Curtis Samuel at FedEx Field, but he was really off with Terry McLaurin for a lot of the day. So they're still clearly working on chemistry, and Terry McLaurin even talked about it after the practice when they had the press conferences, and he said that they're still working on the chemistry because obviously they need to. And at one point in the practice, in the first stretch of 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s, Carson Wentz was 3 of 10 passing. It's statistics and it's practice, so don't read into it too much, but I just felt like y'all needed to know that. But then shortly afterwards, Carson Wentz threaded the needle to Jahan Dotson with 3 defenders around, and that was one of the best plays of the evening. And it was while the defensive line was on Carson Wentz. He had a lot of trash around his feet. Might have actually have been a sack in a real game situation, but they're not supposed to hit Carson Wentz right now. And then shortly after that, another play where it's just a whole bunch of trash around his feet, and it causes him to throw the ball a little weird, but he hit Marken Michel for a really good deep bomb. I mean, literally from the 40-yard line to the touchdown. I mean, that deep bomb was beautiful. And even like before they got into team drills, when they were doing individual drills and warm-ups, and he was just practicing throwing to a receiver running any route without defenders, he was extremely inaccurate during that session. But when we get the team drills, he started to get a little bit more accurate, and I wouldn't say more consistent, but he definitely finished the day strong. I mean, there was even a 4-play period where in one play, on first down, he was under heavy pressure. It was incomplete. Then the second play, straight drop, and hits Jahan Dotson with a bullet on an in route. And then the next play was a tunnel screen to Curtis Samuel, but he threw it behind him. It wasn't accurate. And then the next play was a touchdown. And that's literally the Carson Wentz experience. I'm surprised that people are surprised. I'm hoping that he can become far more consistent with us than he's ever been in his career. But so far, it's just looking like the same typical Carson Wentz. He's going to look like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL some plays, and then some plays he's going to look like, why is he even on an NFL team? And then there was one play where there was pressure and he scrambled up the middle and he looked pretty good doing it. It looked like the typical Carson Wentz that was killing us after we thought we had him for sacks and he was somehow escaped. So that's good to know. And then again, he ended the day very strong. He had an 11-play series with the throw to Terry McLaurin to the right side of the end zone. He looked right, looked away, looked back right, and then pumped and threw it to Terry McLaurin, who grabbed it over Danny Johnson. And Danny Johnson was there. Like, he played as well of a coverage as you can play on a guy like Terry McLaurin. But Terry McLaurin's just different, and Carson Wentz was just very accurate with that deep bomb. It was a back shoulder throw and everything. I mean, the throws that Carson Wentz was actually completing were the more difficult ones, and he was messing up the easier ones. He's so weird like that. But at least, as the day went on, like I said, his accuracy got better over time. It started off very ugly. I mean, again, even in drills with no defender, he was missing receivers, but then ultimately he ended up throwing a whole bunch of bombs and threaded the needle on some plays where it was multiple defenders on the receiver, all kinds of stuff. But again, after starting 3 of 10 in the first set of 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s, he went 6 of 10 in the second stretch. So he ended up being 9 of 20 overall, but he was way better in that second part. Again, with the final throw being that deep bomb to Terry McLaurin over Danny Johnson. And then with the second unit, Heinicke completed all 3 of his passes, including a really nice catch from Armani Rodgers. And any positive Armani Rodgers news, I'm here for it. And I can't wait to get to part 2 of this video for everything that happened today, as in Monday, day 11, August 8th. Of training camp, because Armani Rodgers is making plays, but I gotta wait until the next video to do it, which will come out shortly after this one for sure. But yeah, Taylor Heinicke looked really good out there. He just plays better in FedEx Field than he does in practice. He's just one of those guys. I thought it was just playing in a game thing, but for some reason he's just bad on practice field and good in actual NFL stadiums. I thought the difference was practice to real game, but this technically wasn't a real game. This was technically a practice, but instead it was in a stadium, a real NFL stadium where you actually play games, and he looked good. And there was even one play where he held onto the ball going through his reads. He didn't like what he saw, so he scrambled over to get a touchdown, and instead of like diving or really hustling for it, he kind of jogged slowly at the end and then just kind of reached out to the pylon like this, just real quick to get the touchdown. I thought that was pretty cool. Don't risk getting hurt for nothing. He gave the fans what they wanted with the little pylon reach, but he didn't go full-blown dive like the Tampa Bay playoff game in 2020. And then lastly, Sam Howell had a pretty good day as well, but the most notable day was his third play in red zone drills. He went through his first read, his second read, and then his third read and found Marken Michel for a touchdown. And that makes me very happy. The fact that he's already progressing, because again, I'm gonna keep saying it, Sam Howell is not a question of talent or physical gifts, natural born ability. He has all of the talent in the world. Only thing he's lacking is a little bit of height. The only reason we don't see him as a franchise quarterback already that can dethrone Carson Wentz and Taylor Heinicke is all of the mental stuff, all of the technique stuff, all of the nuance stuff, all of the stuff that Tom Brady is elite at. I mean, you put Tom Brady's brain and footwork in Sam Howell's body, is literally the best quarterback of all time. Highly doubt he'll ever be that mentally advanced, but we definitely need him to be far more mentally advanced than he is currently. But again, like I'm gonna keep saying, and what he showed in that FedEx Field practice is that he's further ahead in his development than any of us expected at this point. Even Ron Rivera and the other coaches are impressed with how fast Howell is learning the offense and learning all of the mental stuff as far as being a quarterback. Again, he's not there yet, but again, he's further ahead than we expected at this point for sure. Then the running backs, and for the most part, all of the great news I was hearing was out of Brian Robinson. Antonio Gibson didn't have a bad day, even though him not fumbling is technically a good day for him, but really everybody was impressed with Brian Robinson. I mean, he was making play after play. He was showing great patience. He was gaining nice chunk yards, finding the right hole, great vision. And then there was even one play where he put his helmet into Derek Forrest's chest, and it was just ugly for Derek Forrest. And that's crazy too, because Derek Forrest is known as a hard hitter, and Brian Robinson was like, hey, contact is what I do best as well, and my contact beats your contact. At least on this play it does. Then wide receiver wise, I mean, Terry is just gonna do Terry things. Remember, he was the recipient of that beautiful last throw from Carson Wentz at the FedEx Field practice, beat Danny Johnson. Good coverage by Danny Johnson, but great over the shoulder catch from a great over the shoulder throw from Carson Wentz on a deep bomb. But the reason most people are here, especially for the wide receiver section of this video, is how did Curtis Samuel look? And he looked great. I mean, literally just a second play of 11 on 11s, Curtis Samuel had a touchdown in the corner of the end zone on Benjamin St-Juste. It was great coverage by Benjamin St-Juste, but just a better throw and a better catch. And I mean, there was contact, he fell to the ground and everything, and he got up like nothing happened. So I love to hear that. I mean, I love hearing him making plays. I love to hear him looking smooth out there, running routes very well, being able to separate against guys. But the most important thing is when he clashes with people, when there's contact, when he falls to the ground, how does he look getting up? Is he ready to go to the next play like nothing happened? And so far it looks like he is. So I'm excited, man. I'm starting to become more optimistic about Curtis Samuel for sure. And again, it's not just because of the touchdown, but what happened in the touchdown, and also what's been happening the past few days in practices, including today, Monday, which we're gonna get to in part 2. I mean, it was a really nice out route by Curtis Samuel too. He looked really smooth running the route, and he definitely got some separation, but Benjamin St-Juste was like right there by the time the ball got there almost, and Curtis Samuel just went up and got it. Also, of course, Jahan Dotson had a good day per usual. You just expect that every day. Nothing very noteworthy there, except for that one play again where he had 3 defenders over him, and it was a great catch by him, but it was more so a great throw by Carson Wentz, but still a great catch by Jahan Dotson. And just to be able to find a spot around 3 defenders where you need to be to get open for your quarterback to get you the ball, that's a lot of advanced stuff that you typically don't see rookie wide receivers doing. And then Marken Michel, you can argue, was one of the MVPs of the Saturday night practice at FedEx Field. He had 2 touchdowns in the 11 on 11 periods. I mean, balling. And then Kelvin Harmon even had a really good contested catch. So he's consistently making at least a play or 2 almost every day in practice. Still not sure if he makes the team, but I'm rooting for him. Then tight end wise, of course, all of the top guys are out. Logan Thomas on PUP, Cole Turner hamstring, John Bates out on Saturday, but he came back on Monday, which we're going to talk about in part 2. And Samus Reyes participated in practice, but he was dealing with a hamstring injury as well. But that left Curtis Hodges and Armani Rodgers with plenty of opportunities to make plays. And in 7-on-7s one time, they ran a 5 wide out with 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends being Armani Rodgers and Curtis Hodges, and 1 running back. And it's crazy too because they ran like a trips with Jahan Dotson and the 2 tight ends, again Armani Rodgers and Curtis Hodges, together in the trips formation. That is like a really weird, rare combination right there. That is weird. I'm glad to see that Scott Turner not only is getting creative, but he's really giving these other guys opportunities to make plays and show what they can do. And then Armani Rodgers making plays in that period where Heinicke completed all 3 of his passes. Like I mentioned earlier, Armani Rodgers was the recipient of probably the best one. Really nice catch, extending his body and everything. And then offensive line, nothing really noteworthy other than the fact that they had a pretty good day. Brian Robinson was able to get all of those chunk plays because the offensive line was opening up holes for him. And then Samuel Cosmi had a really interesting interesting moment where he basically threw Casey Toohill to the ground during the defensive line, offensive line one-on-ones. And then he walked back with his arms raised like, come at me type of thing. So I love the trash talk. I love the competition. And I think that's really cool because Casey Toohill has been balling in training camp. And Friday was his best practice this offseason and arguably probably the best practice he's probably had in his NFL career. And so coming straight off of that to Samuel Cosmi humbling him a little bit, I love it. I love the competition. Healthy competition. Then defensive line wise, Jonathan Allen was shining out there. Couple of the plays where Carson Wentz was completely surrounded, there was just too much pressure, trash all around his feet. It was because of Jonathan Allen a lot of the time. Linebacker, nothing really noteworthy, just the usual. I would prefer Jamin Davis to be out there more than he is because David Mayo is still getting quite a bit of the red zone reps. But hey, man, we'll see how that goes. Then defensive back wise, Danny Johnson, first of all, had pretty good coverage on that Terry McLaurin deep bomb. But then also in one-on-ones, he had a nice pass breakup. And also Kendal Fuller locked everybody down during the Saturday night practice at FedEx Field. I mean, it was just nothing anybody could do against him, even Terry McLaurin. Sounds like Kendal Fuller is poised to have his best season of his career. I mean, he's been balling this offseason. Arguably one of the 3 best players on the team so far this offseason, offense or defense. Also, Cameron Curl, of course, steady, consistent, always making plays, very smart. And then we're going to talk about today's practice where they're talking about where Jamin Davis spoke on how much Cameron Curl's communication and leadership has even stepped up this offseason. But he had a really nice pass breakup on a Carson Wentz throw to Curtis Hodges. And first of all, let's talk about the fact that that's 6'6" or 6'5", whichever one for Carson Wentz. Either way, he's really tall, to a 6'8" Curtis Hodges over the middle of the field. And Cameron Curl was able to break that pass up. That guy can cover anybody, man. Doesn't matter if they're fast, small, big, tall, whatever, man. It's ridiculous. And then also DeJuan Neal, one of the USFL guys that we brought in just like a couple of weeks ago, caught an interception from Sam Howell. Again, Sam Howell had a pretty good day, but he did have that one interception in DeJuan Neal. And then special teams wise, rookie Jahan Dotson, along with Dax Milne, Kyrick McGowan, and Alex Erickson were the one filled in punts. Now that Jaquez Ezzard has been waived and placed on injury designation, it's down to those 4 guys. I'm surprised they didn't add like a 5th guy to take his place, but we're clearly just narrowing it down to the guys that we really want. I think Jahan Dotson probably will be like a situational guy. So who's going to be the guy that gets the bulk of the punt returns? We'll see between Dax Milne, Kyrick McGowan, and Alex Erickson. And that would also probably play a large role in who actually makes the team between those 3 guys, because we may only keep one of the 3 as far as 53-man roster goes. And then lastly, special teams wise, Joey Sly made 4 of his 5 field goals. His only miss was from 60 yards, which I'm not mad at, and it was wide right, but it had the distance, and I'll take that. I prefer wide right over it didn't even have the leg in it. Easily, any day. So again, 4 or 5 for field goals during the FedEx Field practice. The only one he missed was 60 yards. He made from 33, 41, 45, and 49, and they all looked good. Which, I mean, thank goodness, because I'm going to keep saying it. We literally lost at least, at the very minimum, 1 or 2 games due to bad kicking last year. So to have a franchise kicker is huge. And then before we get up out of here, in very random news, you had Ryan Kerrigan coaching up Montez Sweat at a certain point while everybody was warming up. I mean, there's literally like a picture posted by the Washington Commanders official Twitter page of Ryan Kerrigan literally like holding Montez Sweat by the chest and showing him what to do and basically being an offensive lineman for him to practice against. Ryan Kerrigan is heavily involved and I love it. Also, I heard some complaints about like the way that you get food is like really tedious or annoying or is expensive. I don't know. I don't exactly know the details, but I saw some complaints on Twitter about it. So y'all definitely let me know how that went. But that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. How much fun was that Saturday night practice? I wish I could be there. If we do it again next year, I'm gonna try to be there for sure. I might have to fly out, man. I might have to do it. But definitely get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Carson Wentz being severely up and severely down, extremely inconsistent. Are you worried? How do you feel about Curtis Samuel looking like he's 100% at this point? How do you feel about the myriad of injuries that we're dealing with, even though I'm pretty sure like 90% of them are all us just being overly cautious? If we had a game, I'm pretty sure the majority of the people that didn't participate in today's practice would probably play in that game, but they're just being overly cautious. But still, let me know how you feel about the injury situation our team is going through right now and everything discussed in this video. And also definitely let me know the food situation, because again, I've heard some complaints, but I don't know for sure. I wasn't there to experience it. And as always, man, I appreciate the support. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. And shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. Part 2 is coming up right now.